Good morning. Thank you for those joining us. We're going to get started in a minute as some more attendees filter in here. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Shane McMorrow. I'm with HVACR Career Connect New York, which is an initiative we started here at the Mechanical Service Contractors Association. We're happy to have you join us this morning as we try to give you a little bit of insight into our industry here and some of the great opportunities we think we have. So just to get started, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of what we're looking to do here on this morning's webinar. And we have some panelists and speakers that have joined us today, and we appreciate their help in putting this event together. So the first part is going to be a discussion on some of the opportunities in HVACR service. Now, when you hear HVACR, some of you may know what that is, others may not. That stands for heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration. Those are sort of the different subspecialties or sub-trades within the entire trade that we're going to be discussing this morning. The second part of today will be a discussion on the rewards of a career in HVACR. And then finally, we're going to get into, what are some of the career path options and how do you get started if you are interested in a career in this industry. And finally, we're going to leave some time at the end for a few of our panelists who will stick around for a question and answer. But there's also a chat and Q&A feature here in Zoom. So throughout the presentation, if you have a question, you're welcome to go ahead and use that feature, and we'll see if we can answer it as it comes up. And if not, we'll try to get to it at the end. For those who are joined here, you'll be contacted at the end with a recording of the webinar as well. So if there's something you missed and you want to go back and see later on, certainly you'll be able to get that afterwards as well. So a little bit about the industry and why we're excited about it. I'm sorry, just to quickly go through as well, we have presenters here. Scott Berger is the president of Arista Air Conditioning Corp. Mike Godoy is the service manager of Apex Mechanical Corp. And Michael Razone, the vice president of sales and marketing with Arista Air Conditioning. So in a little while, Michael's going to also have a few service technicians join him, and he'll introduce them as that panel comes up. And again, I would just want to talk briefly about some of the opportunities that we see in HVACR. Looking at some of the surveys of where the industry is going over the next few years, there's a definite growth and need that's going to be seen, and our contractors in the industry certainly feel that. We hear almost every day from contractors looking for qualified individuals to come join their company and help them meet that demand that's growing. A lot of it's just based on the general growth in heating and air conditioning and refrigeration systems. Some of it is tied to the fact that a lot of the individuals who work in our industry are, definitely on the back half of their careers. And so there's going to be a big need for replacing that baby boomer generation and a lot of folks who are looking at retirement in the next 5 or so years. So there's a lot of growth mixed in with a lot of folks retiring in the next couple of years. Means there's a lot of opportunity for new people to get involved and to join this industry. On top of that, there's a lot of different things that have come up in the last few years that are impacting our industry specifically, from energy conservation and efficiency efforts to indoor air quality concerns, as well as advancements in technology, IoT or Internet of Things, and smart building solutions. So if you're not familiar with the industry, those might just sound like some buzzwords that you're not too familiar with, and we'll get into some of them later on during the presentation. But essentially, traditional heating and air conditioning, the way it was installed, has stayed the same in a lot of ways, but lately has started to change in terms of how technology is impacting that role. A lot of smart buildings now connect their heating and air conditioning system to lighting control, weather forecasts, a bunch of different things to ensure that a system is operating as optimal as possible, and making sure that the individuals that are in that particular space reaping the benefits of reduced energy use and cost, better sustainability for the environment, and better air conditioning and comfort in the space that they're in. And so that's, again, just kind of some of the key topics and trends that we see in our industry. We'll talk about a little more of it throughout the webinar so you get a better understanding of what some of those things mean. But I'm excited now to also, turn it over to Mike Razzone, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Arista Air Conditioning. He's going to have a few technicians with him to talk a little bit more about just what a typical day in the life of a service technician is and give you a better sense of what it's like to work in this industry. So Michael, if you're going to go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Shane. Good morning, everyone, and happy holidays. It's a pleasure today to interview some of the industry's best and brightest as they're going to share with you a little bit about their experiences in the field and in the industry. So I'd like to introduce two of these technicians right now. Both of them are with Arista Air Conditioning. One is John Chiarello, and the other is Jordan Fuller. So guys, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day today to kind of shed some of your experiences and perspective with us. So let's jump right in. John, let me ask you, what attracted you to the industry?
Well, good morning. And what really attracted me was I went to a vocational high school in 2012 that my father had attended prior to. My mom's in the industry. So when I graduated and Arista gave me the opportunity to be an apprentice, it was a no-brainer, especially, with all the good I've heard about Arista, and everyone, even when I got in the door, it was just welcoming, and it's been a real pleasure. So it's been a very interesting journey, and what attracted me the most was how everything within the industry is growing. Like everything is. It's just something that you've never seen before in my sense.
Fantastic. Jordan, how about yourself? What got you to the industry?
Well, in high school, I knew that I didn't want to do a desk job, internship with Citibank, and I knew that wasn't for me. So after high school, I took a year break to try to figure, out what I wanted to do. And a friend of mine, he did air conditioning before. So he approached me and he said, "Hey, how about give it a shot at air conditioning?" I didn't know anything about it. You asked me what a screwdriver was, I'd look at you with I don't know what that is, but I went to school for it, and I liked it. I like the fact that it's challenging. You get to challenge yourself. And I like the fact that you get to move around. You're not stuck in one place at once, and there's always opportunities for growth. You don't have to stay in the field and do physical air conditioning. There's so many different aspects that you can branch off into. So that's what I like the most about it. You get to move around a lot, and then you work with so many different people. You get to soak in so much of their experiences. It just makes you a better person.
Absolutely. So John, back to you. What does a typical day look like as an HVACR technician?
Well, I begin my day by picking up my material from a specific location in Manhattan, and then I head to my first job location. I introduce myself to the customer. I let them know what kind of work I'll be completing today and what my task would be for that day. Arista also provides a picture and video that specifies and shows, so they can physically see on either a phone, a laptop, however they would like, through an email. I check in with my dispatch before I go to my next job. I also, before the day ends, I check in with junior guys that I'm mentoring, that I could try and see if I give them a hand, or if they need anything by the end of the day, or anything came up that they didn't know what to do, that we could revisit, or they could actually even FaceTime me while they're on the job location, but that pretty much sums it up,
Great. So Jordan, let me ask you, and I know as a technician, right, your first call of the day, could be a maintenance inspection. Your second could be an emergency service call where you have no idea what you're walking into. And perhaps your third call of the day is you're installing parts for something that you previously identified maybe a week or so ago. So how do you feel about doing different things throughout the course of the day?
I love it. I absolutely love it. You go to right now I'm on a maintenance call, and I was here yesterday, and as a professional technician, you want to make sure that once you finish with this job, that there's no callbacks, everything is up and running as it is. So I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that you go through a couple of different things a day. You can be doing maintenance on one call, emergency service the next, installations. It seems like there's a lot of variety in terms of the course of the day, and was wondering how you felt about doing different things throughout the course of the day.
Oh, yes. Again, I love it. It keeps it interesting because you're not doing the same thing all the time. Today I'm on a maintenance today. Tomorrow I could be installing a compressor. The next day I could be doing a survey. The next day I could, be on a service call. As you said, I don't know what I'm walking into, and it just keeps it interesting, keeps you on the tip of your toes. So you're always engaged and you're always learning.
Sure. And I would imagine too, and John, I guess, for you as well, the different types of customers that you work for, right? You could be in a corporate office space, one call, a health club the next, and a luxury residential property, as the last call of the day. How is that experience? And do you have to adjust as you kind of go into those different environments?
Definitely. I could be working in, somewhere in a subcellar of a basement in a mud room, and then end up on 92nd Street or 52nd Street in a high-end residential. But I always pack clothes as well, just in case, But as far as within the industry, it's what Arista does is you can work on from anything from a window unit to a P-TEC unit to a big chiller, So the experiences within the industry are pretty vast, But thankfully that we're able to be professional, bring our professionalism and change into whatever scenario we're in at the time.
Great. Jordan, let me ask you, how has technology changed the way you do your job? Are you using computers more often in the field, and has diagnostic equipment changed from a few years back? What's that like?
It has definitely changed. Before it was contact and relays. It's very simple. Now, if you go on a job and you don't have a computer, I have one account I take care of, that having the computer would have made the difference between 5 minutes and 2 days. So
Really?
Technology has greatly advanced, and because of that, we have to keep on top of it.
Right. And how do you, John or Jordan, either one, how do you feel? How do you guys stay on top of ever-changing technology, right? As HVACR technicians, and I know for the both of you working for Arista, you're not working for a manufacturer. So it isn't one type of equipment. It's kind of agnostic. You have to learn to work on all different types of equipment, all different types of brands. How do you stay on top of that?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. So the key ways you have to take in knowledge. You have to learn about each equipment. And also, while working on the equipment, you can always call customer support. And that is one aspect that you can turn to. And then the equipment manual. You can always look up the equipment manual. Again, we're in the 21st century. Almost everything is online. And that's how I go about my day-to-day. I could work on a Mitsubishi, a Daikin, a Train, a McQuay. Most of the equipment manuals are online, and that most of the time will get you through whatever obstacle that you might come upon.
Sure. And I think go ahead, John. Sure.
Yeah. So, like right now this is my tool bag. It's like a backpack type of situation. I have about every unit, like he said, Mitsubishi, Daikin, LG, Samsung, Train. I have a tool for each unit, and tech support is a different number for each, honestly, with technology, it is easier with the laptop, but everything with this industry is, with these parts, it takes a very long time, and especially with this part, issue. Now we're trying to get emergency units going on at this point, and we're able to, take a compressor offline and switch it over to another unit because we have multiple compressors within the same unit. So it's efficient. I believe that this is going to be the industry at this point, especially being we're both young, that, it's going to be our future. And the best part about it is we have both sides of we have the future, and then we have our, older labor or older skilled guys that showed us what they learned over the years. So we have the old and the new at this point. So that's what makes us such a skilled mechanic at this point.
Yeah, I guess there's such value in that transfer of knowledge from those with, with more experience, some of the older guys, right? But, to both your points, and John, it's interesting to see you hold up, a backpack nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Versus, hundreds of pounds of tools, right? You guys are
Yeah.
sitting there with laptops plugging into machinery. That's pretty cool. So let me ask you a question, Jordan. I'm going to ask to both of you, but what advice would you give to somebody who's considering a career as a service technician and getting into the trade?
You don't know everything. That's the one advice I got when I started. You will never know everything. So always be willing and always be willing to learn, because even a new person can come in and teach you something that you've been doing for 5 years and you've never picked up one. So always be willing to learn. That's the one advice that I've got that I keep going back to, and it has assisted me and made me a better technician than before.
Fantastic. John, how about yourself?
Yeah. Could you ask the question one more time?
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about a career in the trade as an HVAC or technician?
Yeah, I think the industry is limitless. HVAC will always be a necessity. I'm proof with a little bit of hard work that you could achieve what you set your mind to in HVAC. Basically, there's multiple routes to the trade. You could be in the office, you could be out in the field, you could be giving estimates. It's not just one glove fits all within the industry. I started doing, contracts for maintenances, then became a helper under some, for 5 years. The leading mechanic gave me, the tools I needed, and then being in a truck, but I really hope that with the new generation and, even older generation, that they want to start this industry, because it is really limitless. It is a route that you could take anywhere, and very good pay.
That's great. That's great. Jordan, what didn't you know about the industry, but that came as a pleasant surprise kind of once you got into it?
Where it will take you and the people that you'll meet. I've met so many different types of people that have influenced me in a way that have made me a better technician than before. The equipment is different. It's very different. It's something, I never imagined that the day would come where I need a computer to work on a piece of air conditioning equipment. Never, right. I would have never thought of that. But it's changing drastically, and
yep.
We need new guys. We need new people to pass on this knowledge to. So it's here for the taking.
Fantastic. So I'm going to ask John, I'm going to give you the last question. I want to be respectful of both your time and others on the call, as well as the rest of the agenda. John, what do you like most about being a technician, HVACR technician?
Yeah, you know what it is? I think I enjoy the customer satisfaction. The gratification after fixing a unit. I also enjoy that each day brings a new challenge that helps me build my skill sets within the industry. There's so many different types, like I said. I could be working on the smallest unit to the biggest unit within hours, I really feel as though within the industry, like I said, it's limitless. I honestly, when I leave here, I do feel like my day is fulfilled if I actually get a unit running. And if I don't, it kills me not to get that unit running. I'll literally go home and either call people or YouTube something, something that I can personally say that it is kind of, it's not a job, when people say when you work, it's 9 to 5, it's really more than that. It's really fulfilling. And I never thought I would say something like that with,
that's great.
with
That's
the industry.
Great. Yeah, you guys are both both assets to the company, that's for sure, and certainly to the industry. You're both great ambassadors, and we wish you continued success in your journey. So, guys, thank you very much. Shane, I'm going to turn it back to you. John, Jordan, thanks again. Have yourselves a great day, and Shane, back to you.
Thank you all.
See you guys.
All right, so thank you to Michael, John, and Jordan. That was great. Certainly, some rockstar assets here in the industry, and Michael, we appreciate your time helping them speak a little bit to just how much this industry has to offer, and they're both obviously some great voices and put a lot of good context into what working in this industry means. I'm excited now to be joined as well by Mike Godoy from Apex Mechanical. Mike's going to speak a little bit more about the industry and about what makes for a good technician and who's suited for working in this industry. Mike, thanks for joining us here, and I appreciate your time as well. We just saw two technicians, John and Jordan, who obviously looked like some great representation of what a good technician is in this industry. They obviously are both bright technicians and have a good future ahead. But Mike, I just want to get kind of your perspective. You work in a little bit of a different business than Arister, and Arister does a lot of air conditioning. You guys at Apex, you do a lot of heating side work, a lot of boilers, and even though it's the HVAC industry, you definitely have a bit of a different side to it there. From your perspective, what do you see when you're looking for a technician? What are some of the qualities and traits that help a technician stand out as being really a great fit for the industry?
So good morning all, and happy holidays. Well, this job is like most others, when it comes to who is well suited for it. I believe that having a good attitude, a good personality, inquisitive, helpful, focus, all of those qualities is definitely something that we want to welcome and invite into this industry. For me, it's like it's been more like let's say when a person is willing to take the lead, when a person is just have initiative, to come into it, and just be willing to make something with it,
Yeah, I know. I mean, we just heard John speak a little bit about that, sort of seeing that the industry is limitless and the opportunities are there for you if you want to go and take it. And he talked a little bit too about the importance of transfer, having that sort of mentor relationship with, maybe someone who's more experienced in the industry, and then a newer individual comes in and learns from them. And then, John himself talking about passing that knowledge down now to some even newer individuals in the industry. Do you kind of see that in your own experience, where some people come in and really, like you said, they're inquisitive, they have that initiative, and they really go ahead and seek out some of those experienced and skilled veterans of the industry to get more knowledge and learn more in the field?
Well, absolutely. And it's encouraged, because I find it, I believe it was John who said it, but it's, he's absolutely right. Or Jordan, I think what Jordan said it very well. Passing down knowledge is like almost one of the best ways to actually learn yourself. You touch back on so many different things that you sometimes might have missed when you start teaching people. So, it's always encouraged to pass down information to younger, older generation, whoever comes into the field, because this is a field that changes so drastically, and that is changing quite dramatically from the time I started. It's over 25 years ago. It's been interesting. It's been very interesting. I wouldn't change it for the world.
If you're thinking about, like you said, you started about over 25 years ago, thinking about someone who's maybe interested in the industry, they know a little bit about it, but not a ton. Do you have in your own mind what are some tips you'd give someone who's thinking about HVACR, thinking about getting into the heating, air conditioning, refrigeration industry? What could they do to maybe help prepare them to be a little more prepared if they were to enter the industry? What are some of the things they can seek out now?
Well, nowadays we live in a very informative world. So, seeking stuff in the internet, I mean, you could probably find a video and information about just about everything, but definitely, there's a lot of private education, union schools, to seek out. Most important though is the personal will to go and find this information, and see if it is something that you want to do. But believe me, if it's something that a person would consider, I would reiterate that, this is not like a job. This is a way of life. This is something super fulfilling. At the end of the day, you actually feel like you've accomplished things, I'm just so surprised that more people are not, like flooding the gates, because it's such a good job. It's such a good, rewarding job.
So I know we just heard from the, two technicians before, and speaking with you, I know you have, such a high, you hold the industry in such a high regard and recognize all the benefits of working in the industry. But just to be fair, it can also be a difficult industry to work in sometimes too. There's certainly its challenges and some, it's not easy work, right? I mean, the folks who work for you at Apex and everyone who works in the industry are certainly hardworking individuals. So, thinking from that perspective, being realistic, what are, one or two of the things you'd say are some of the harder aspects of working in the industry, or, some of the more difficult aspects of the job?
I think getting out of bed in the morning is probably one of the hardest things.
Becoming an early morning person, yeah.
Right, yeah. So, but I've never really had a problem with that, but a lot of people seem to have a problem with it, But I guess, sometimes being by yourself, having to make sometimes, on a late call, you're by yourself, you don't want to bother too many people, having to make decisions that make a difference, that matter and that you own. I think those are the things that sometimes we need to learn how to cope and deal with. That could be a little difficult. In the younger generation, sometimes also like being on call, because it requires you to work. Not requires, but you can choose. There are different companies that depending on their workload, there's a lot of overtime, and some people just don't or may not need to, or whatever the case may be, want to do the overtime. Which in my case, when I was very young, I couldn't wait to have as much as I could, because I wanted to buy a house, if there's that or whatnot. So I definitely always wanted the overtime, But yeah, those things, I think could be a little difficult, depending on, your style of life and everything,
Yeah, I think, well, kind of like you mentioned, right? So some companies have more overtime, some have different on-call policies. Some companies you're more likely to be out, working in a van by yourself, whereas others, there's a better chance you might be working on, different projects where you might be teamed up with another technician for certain projects. Right. I think kind of to your point, if you are interested in getting in the industry, it'd be important to talk to that company ahead of time to get a good understanding of, hey, is this somewhere where, overtime comes up every once in a while? Is it somewhere where overtime is a pretty big part?
Right. This is something, yes. It is something that should be spoken about, in the start, because, it can become a demanding job. But there's all sorts of companies, they schedule work totally different, and there's always a fit for everyone,
Right.
And again, with, like you were saying, I've worked in the heating end of it, basically my whole career, and it's a little bit different than when you do air conditioning and refrigeration, the schedule. So, that change,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Mike, I appreciate your time. Have you stick around and join us back in a few minutes, but for now we're going to go ahead and turn it over to keep it moving on to the next section. But thanks, Michael. Talk to you soon. All right. So Now joining us is Scott Berger from Arista Air Conditioning. Scott, appreciate you being here and thanks for the time. Scott, as the president of Arista Air Conditioning, has also been involved here with the HVACR Career Connect initiative, getting this up and off the ground, along with a few of our other directors and trustees. And Scott, I know you've also played a large role on the national level with our Mechanical Service Contractors Association, and take a lot of pride in helping promote the industry. So appreciate you being here.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I'm going to just go ahead and move into the next section here, which is talking a bit about the pay and benefits of being in the industry. So Mike Godoy was just speaking a little bit about the work opportunities, sometimes how there's overtime. He said himself as a younger technician, he enjoyed the overtime because it kind of helped him save up to buy a house. I know we kind of see that generational gap, right, where a lot of the more experienced technicians certainly seeked out that overtime 20, 30 years ago and kind of banked up some money doing so. But let me just quickly do a run through of what the industry currently has in terms of pay and benefits to give those watching a bit of an idea. So this is really where we are here as starting kind of most importantly, usually is competitive wages. Usually folks get into the industry and start out as a helper or first year technician. By your second year, you're looking at more than $25 an hour in wages alone. And, that's a steady promotion through your third and fourth year. And then as you get promoted to journey person and full mechanic wages, you're looking at over $90,000 a year. And certainly, kind of like Mike was just saying, those who seek out the overtime, it can be well beyond that in terms of earnings throughout a year. There's generally regular raises built into our agreement. We negotiate with local union 638. They're of the United Association. They represent the metal trades branch or service fitter workforce in our industry here. So they negotiate for very good wages and benefits on their behalf, and they represent the workers, to ensure that they're getting a good deal here. Included in that is vacation, holiday, and sick pay. And then on top of that, so for folks who maybe aren't in the industry yet and don't quite have a sense of how important these next two pieces are, our industry also offers, what most would continue to be pretty much the best in nation health coverage and pension benefits. So after working about 100 hours in a month, so usually after about your first month, you then can become eligible to be covered under our healthcare plan, which includes no employee share of the premium. So it's fully paid for the employees to have really top-notch health coverage. And then there's a pension benefit. Again, if you're just starting out your career, you might not be thinking down the line to pension benefits, but certainly go around and ask anyone in the second half of their career how happy they'd be to know they can retire in their early 60s with, sometimes $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 per month coming as a pension benefit. It's one of those things you don't necessarily think about up front, but certainly on the back half of your career, it makes a world of difference. And Scott, I know you've been involved along with a few other contractors over the years in helping shape this collective bargaining agreement with Local 638. One of the things I've always found is that our contractors here in this industry, really do enjoy being able to pay their workforce good benefits, knowing that their employees have great health coverage and great pensions, so they can get sort of the retirement they've earned and deserved after a long career. I don't know if you want to maybe just speak to that for a minute.
Sure. I mean, there is no doubt that from the employer's standpoint, it is expensive, but it is, as you said, one of the best plans and the greatest coverage from a medical standpoint that exists. It is basically hard to go out into the market and get coverage as good as this in the open market. I'm not even sure it exists. And I guess to touch back on the pay side of this, last we looked, I think half of our field earned $100,000 or more. So it is certainly a place where you can earn a nice living, and then the cost of these benefits is in addition to that. So you're not you pay in to match union dues, but you're not paying in to support either the medical or the pension plan. And while I know as a young person, often you're not thinking about, well, what is that like when I'm in my 60s or 70s or 80s? think, to be able to have this pension plan that is going to continue to grow, for which you are not contributing out of your own pocket to build, is fantastic. There aren't as many jobs these days or careers where that exists in that way. So it really is, all three sides of that is really just a fantastic benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we spoke a little bit and we heard from the technicians and some of Mike's questions to him, as well as Mike Bedoya speaking a little bit about the heating side. Obviously this industry is really a lot of different types of work, all kind of squished together in a 5-letter acronym of HVACR. Do you want to maybe speak to what are some of the interesting types of work, and obviously there's challenging aspects of it as well, but really, what are some of those jobs that we do in the industry? What are some of the technical aspects, and what are some of the opportunities and types of work individuals get to enjoy working in this industry?
Yeah, when I think about the careers in HVACR, it is the kind of dynamic aspect of it. It's the fact that you are not just working on a refrigerant cycle of something. As a technician, you are working on, you're working on plumbing, you're working on electrical, could be carpentry, it could be involved in rigging equipment. The different types of work you get involved in on any given day really keeps the job interesting and changing. And so you have to build those skill sets kind of across all of these fields. And so does that make that more challenging? Certainly. At the same time, this is your life's career. So learning this skill set is something you will have that is yours, right? And you get to carry with you throughout your life. So it keeps it, because it changes every day. What we don't have is people getting bored of their jobs. Right, every day something new could be happening, and that doesn't even cover kind of the various equipment we work on. So you had mentioned kind of, we have the air conditioning side of things, so that could be everything from something in a sub basement to a ceiling, up on a roof, in a mechanical room, right? It takes you to these different locations, and then you have the heating aspect, you have refrigeration, ventilation, and that doesn't even start to touch on the whole environmental perspective of what we get involved in. So just the whole career in general, I guess the word I would use is dynamic, in that it covers a big expanse of work, and it's changing.
So I just, when you try to think about some of the buildings and spaces that make New York what they are, right? And you think of theaters and museums, you think of the stadiums and ballparks, right? All these different things that really stand out, right? One World Trade Center, things that make us think and recognize what New York is. And then you think about the way our industry plays a role in those spaces, right? And the different contractors we've had that have gone ahead and installed the critical systems to make sure those buildings are operating, right? To make sure in a museum that the artwork is safe because the space is kept at the right temperature. Make sure at a hockey arena that the ice is actually ice when they go to play a game tomorrow night, right? So all these different things to make sure that there's refrigeration and beer lines running at Yankee Stadium, otherwise no one would enjoy the game. All the things that make New York what it is.
Is that a statement against the Yankees?
I don't know. It just seems like soda and beer go hand in hand with watching baseball.
Yes.
But all these things that make New York what they are, our contractors and the technicians working on it in the industry, have played a critical role in making those spaces available to New Yorkers and to all come to visit the city. It is quite a unique aspect.
Absolutely. And I mean, my career has taken me from, the sub basement of the Empire State Building to the top floor of the Empire State Building, and the radio transmitting stations where you are above the observation deck even, and looking out, to places that, the nicest apartments that exist in the world with some of the most famous people, known, to the nicest restaurants of New York City, it just runs the gamut of every type of environment you could think of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I also just want to turn now a little bit to, we're talking about the different types of work, and you mentioned before this, a whole host of different systems that even one individual technician could work on in their career, let alone, the thousands of technicians working in the industry might cover. What are some of the things you've seen in our industry, either at a specific, contractor level or the industry as a whole, that we do to support continuous learning, career development, the idea that, even like John and Jordan touched on, that you're never really done learning and you have to be open to learning new things throughout your career. What are some of the things you see in the industry supporting that?
So at the start of your career, and so my company does this, and most of the other union contractors I know participate as well. So there's a union trade school. So it's a 3-year program where and that is sponsored by the employer, so at no cost to the employee, and they're learning the trade with their peers. We do a whole lot of continuing education, and that comes in different forms. So at our size, we have enough people, enough technicians that we can put in front of a manufacturer, that we're able to get manufacturers in to come do specific sessions on their equipment. But we also we do kind of checking in testing to see where you're at with your skill set. And then we tailor the type of education we're setting up for you based on need. And we're very open about kind of the way we measure this. And we understand that kind of takes a certain vulnerability to be able to be open about what you know and what you don't know. But think about how powerful that is for your growth and learning. If you're willing to do that, we're able to pick out specific educational sessions, webinars, seminars, training at the manufacturer's locations based on your growth in your career. So we're doing that regularly with our field technicians. We also have started utilizing a training app where you get kind of small, quicker, shorter pieces of training specific to different either technology or equipment, and program that where, right, you can do it from your phone. You don't have to take up half a day to do it. And I think that's also will be a big part of the future of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's seems like every year or two that goes by, there becomes a new way, right, of trying to get education in front of the technicians, which is great, because it does make it a lot more accessible. And like you said, even the folks who go through the apprentice training program at the union, they still need that education years later, right? So now there's ways of getting that in front of them, whether it's through an app or, as everyone today has mentioned, the different videos that are available online, and just how much more accessible that education has become.
Yep, for sure.
So Scott, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back over to Mike right now. I'm gonna ask you to, stick around a few minutes. We'll come back to you and wrap up the last section. But for now, I'm just gonna bring Mike Godoy back on. Thank you, Scott.
I'll be here
for your time. We'll see you in a minute. So we're gonna bring Mike Godoy back on shortly here. Hello again, Mike. Just gotta unmute yourself when you get a second. I'll appreciate you joining us again. We're going to speak briefly about, the idea of career advancement. And, we've spoken about this a little bit with some of the other folks on the webinar today. And you yourself mentioned, right, that you've been in the industry for over 25 years and, you've really been able to see your own career grow. So maybe if you want to just give me a little bit of the, background of your story, how you got involved in the industry and how you've grown and turned this into a career for yourself.
Well, I would say I was raised in a religious family, so I would say that God has always been with me to start. But I think it has to do with chance, luck, a lot of luck, because I find find these opportunities. You have to be placed in the right situations and everything, and will, because you have to be willing to. At the end of the day, do the right thing. get up, go to work, and try your best at what you're doing. Uh, uh, as a young man, I've always had a good work attitude. You know, and I came across Apex Mechanical, which is it's a great family-owned business, and they gave me the opportunity to go to school, to 638 to the school, and become what I would say a good mechanic. But then what can I say, right?
Yeah.
I've loved it. I loved every minute of it. So I've always had that mentality. I mean, if we love what we do, it's almost like never working a day in our lives. So this is this is how I got into it like that.
So now you're in your role as a service manager, right? You sort of now are at that position of looking at some of the other newer technicians maybe in our industry, and some of them, and some technicians, right, want to just stay. They enjoy working in the field, working on the equipment. They like, they're happy the way things are. Others look at it and say, hey, I'm coming as a service technician, but I want to see what else is out there. Down the line, I want to know if I can get promoted to management roles. Certainly we see in our industry a lot of companies that either, the president and owner themselves are former service technicians, or, high level executives are service technicians. What would you say are some of the traits and characteristics that you see in the folks who want to kind of go after taking those next steps into management roles? What helps them succeed? What are some of the things they should do at the earlier stages in their career to set themselves up for that sort of transition in the future?
No, well, definitely management is more demanding, because now you're not only responsible for yourself, but also for all the other people, decisions that are made and everything. But for sure, good candidates for these positions are, people that are, that are organized, communicate well, task oriented. You definitely got to have a thick skin too, because when you're in this position, you get it from both sides. But it's definitely an endeavor. It's you learn a lot more. I think sometimes you're able to accomplish more because you can mentor people. You can help people that are having problems with specific tasks and everything. So these are things that you don't do when you're just a mechanic doing the one thing that you're doing. So you're involved in a lot of other things. You also become very aware of the operation of the whole, of the company, or who you work for, how the work is acquired, how contracts, and all the other stuff that we're really not aware of when we're mechanics. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
So
It's
one
new
thing you mentioned.
and interesting.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. You said it's what?
It's new and interesting for me because I've only done this
Right.
for 3-4 years already. So
Right.
it's different.
So something you mentioned there that I just want to kind of touch on, before we wrap this section up, is the importance of communication, right? I mean, you mentioned that as a quality for someone who maybe is looking to get into a management role, but maybe if you just want to speak a little bit to the importance of communication for almost any role in this industry, right? Whether you're a first-year technician, a 20-year technician, or someone who is looking to get into the management role, and maybe the importance of just recognizing how important communication is in your own company, up to the technician level, up to the management level, and then when on the customer side, right, when you're dealing with them as well. You just want to speak to that for a minute.
Right. So these are some of the skills that are most important, even from day one when we start. With just any task, anything that we really do in life, we have to be able to clearly communicate our thoughts and be transparent about what we're doing, and so people can feel comfortable and confident that that they have a person that they can trust by their side, and so the communication part it's good. It's most important, because like that we all know what, the playing field that we're in, and how to handle situations as they come.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Mike, again, I appreciate your time. I'm going to turn it back over to Scott now to close out the final section. But as always, Mike, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and insight here.
Please, it has been my pleasure. Hope I can
All
help
right.
out with anything else.
All right. You bet. Take care, Mike. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
All right, welcome back, Scott. Thanks again for joining me here.
Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the paths in the industry. A lot of times people are, wondering, okay, so I'm interested in HVACR. What does that mean? How do I get involved? And there's, not necessarily one path into the industry. There's definitely a few different options. I don't know if you at your company have a particular way that you end up finding most of your entry-level technicians. I jotted down maybe a few different options here that we know about. The last one, the apprenticeship program, we'll touch on that in a few minutes, and we've kind of hinted at that throughout. But maybe if you just want to talk about your own organization, how do you often get a new technician into your company?
Sure. And we're at times a little different in we are extraordinarily fortunate in that we do have people sending their resumes and contacting us. And that can be because they know of us through friends and family. And that's been the trick to HVACR, is that we're getting people who are otherwise connected to the industry. And part of doing something like this webinar for me is trying to expand beyond that. This notion that as a career, this is the best kept secret. And there are, I think, so many people that would be well suited for a career here, and ultimately that's the goal, is to expand out beyond those that otherwise have already come across us as an industry. So when people contact us, we go through kind of the regular interview process when we're hiring. And I guess that's one thing to know, maybe different than some other industries that are unionized. In our case, the contractors hire the individuals directly, and they put them in the union. So they then get them set up in the union. So that can be a little different than some other industries that are unionized. And then, for us, it's a series of, there's a union trade school, there's mentoring, continuing education, and other ways that people can grow within the organization. Sometimes vocational and trade schools can be a pipeline for us. Some of those schools have closed now in the last, I guess these last 2 and 3 years. So, but that can be a good way for someone to determine, this is something I'm interested in and I'd like to pursue it. So that can be helpful as well.
Yeah, I think, we've, like you said, a lot of the folks who've come into the industry in the past that have been individuals who've known about the industry one way or another, and certainly vocational and trade schools are part of that. Sometimes post-secondary vocational schools, some that are providing certificate level courses specific to this industry, to maybe a heating course or air conditioning course or refrigeration cycle, different aspects that a technician would then be able to carry on over into the industry. But certainly it's not needed. It's not the only way to get into the industry, right? There's no prerequisite that you go and spend money at a trade school and come in with a specific set of qualifications. I know that we have some companies who maybe do more technical work in a specific trade, right, or a specific aspect of the trade, and they might only want applicants who have certifications prior to applying. And so it's important to note that each company does have their own sort of practices, and you want to be in communication with the company to know what they're looking for. But yeah, I guess,
right.
Scott, would you say that there's a bit of a need just for people who meet some of the characteristics like we've talked about earlier today, or hardworking, eager to learn more, interested in things that are different every day, new and unique challenges. You don't want to speak maybe a little bit to to those sort of characteristics and the types of individuals that we're trying to get involved in this industry?
Yes, and it's all those things. So I agree. I know for us, it is not a prerequisite that you went to a vocational or trade school, but it's a nice add. There may be some companies that look for that as a starting point. I would guess most of the industry that's not the case. So it's really anyone who is looking for the type of work environment where it's always changing. I think it's great for someone who otherwise is, knows that sitting in a cubicle and kind of locked behind a screen or a desk is not for them. It does actually work also where if you went for a 2-year degree or 4-year college degree, that still can work for what we're doing here. Again, not a prerequisite in I think any cases or almost all cases, but I think always foundationally, any additional education you're getting is never a bad thing. And certainly those that are sharp, that are good at problem solving. There's certainly an aspect of independent work here, so self-motivated, and all those things come together to be a great career as a field technician.
Absolutely. I did just see a question that had come up, someone asking what are some of the key certifications required. And so, right, again, I would say that nothing's necessarily required. Each company might have its own policies. Certainly plenty of companies that bring on helpers with no experience and no certifications prior to applying. That's definitely available in the industry for some companies. But Scott, I don't know if you want to mention maybe what are some certifications. I don't think you require any specifically, but I do know, right, we do have some that require like the EPA certification for handling refrigerants prior to applying for the positions. That would probably be the most common one in our industry.
Right, and probably in most cases that's not a prerequisite requirement, in that if you don't have it, it's something we would work with you for you to get. Right. When you do go to the trade school, there is a Green Star, I believe they're still doing, certification, so kind of showing that you are at the top of your game, along with an understanding of kind of all the environmental implications of what we do. And then there are some kind of work related, so OSHA, fire safety types of certifications that, again, your employer would work with you to make sure you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I right, and so someone in the question answer mentioned that a few companies have asked for G60, and so again, yeah, you might have, based on what the types of work that the company's doing, they might be a little more inclined to ask for something like a fire guard and or refrigerant certification. So it could be unique to an individual company's work type.
Yep.
But I do think we just kind of want to highlight the fact that as we've been discussing, beyond the benefits of this industry, one of the clear benefits is that there's paths to get into the industry without really incurring any debt. So some folks might choose to go for a 2-year or 4-year college degree. Some might choose to go to a vocational or trade school and then find their way into our industry. And that's great. We certainly welcome that. And we're always eager for people who are seeking out more education. But it's important to note that that's not required. There's opportunities to join the industry, whether as a helper or sometimes companies are looking to hire first-year technicians. And overwhelmingly, a lot of the knowledge you're going to get in your career is going to be on the job and through, potentially the union trade school that your employer might send you to, or the different manufacturer and in-house trainings, like Scott mentioned, that'll be set up at an individual company level. So, I think we talk about it a lot on our side, and we always try to figure out, why don't more people realize this, that there's all these careers out there that don't require a 4-year degree, don't require $200,000 to $300,000 in student loans. So, that's certainly an option for some people, but it definitely exists in our industry in a way that it's not required.
Definitely so, and that was a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe just kind of transition here to our final section, talk a bit about unfortunately nowadays we have to always have some section that talks about COVID. So maybe a little quick section on how the pandemic's impacted our industry and what that might mean going forward, and what impacts are temporary and what are more long term. So I threw a couple of topics up on here, but you can also just speak a little bit to your own experience over the last 2 years.
Sure. It has been kind of amazing from each and every different industry. We've been impacted similar and yet different. There are some industries that are absolutely thriving through this, others that have been decimated. And we are probably somewhere in between in that. This has certainly created some business challenges, everything from the supply chain issues and challenges in getting parts, materials, and equipment. The work environment has been a juggle as rules have changed to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep people safe. And especially in our case, because they're going into other people's work environment to do what they do, all of our field people. So that's been a juggle. But for us, we happen to be positioned in this where this virus is airborne and spread through the air. So ventilation systems, so air conditioning, heating, and ventilation plays a significant role in solving for and creating safer work environments. So we play a big part of this. Overall, I think many found that their businesses were off just based on occupancy in New York City being down. But at the same time, I know everyone is kind of getting through it and doing kind of everything in their power to be available to their clients to help support them in making their spaces safer. So yes, a challenge as it is for many, but we are a big part of the solution, and I'm kind of happy to play that role.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've seen in our contractors world, it's been everything from offices and residences asking how to improve air quality to try to figure out if there's going to be a way to mitigate the spread of COVID in their own space, to a business that's looking to get back up and running. You had mentioned restaurants. Some of our contractors also handle grocery stores as well. And so especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when there was concerns over getting food and how that was going to work, the ability to make sure a grocery store was up and running and not losing service was paramount. So that was, day one. Some of the essential workers were service technicians in our industry who were going to be on grocery stores, on hospitals, other healthcare facilities, doing what they can to make sure that those facilities were operating and that there's not going to be any interruptions that were going to impact, our city as we were kind of going through the worst month or two of anyone's lives in this city here. So
yeah,
a lot of the HVAC technicians played a pretty critical role in that.
Even the cooling of data centers, as everyone went to remote working, think of how important data centers were. And right as people were working from home and not going out to eat, the food service and supermarkets were super critical in terms of the refrigeration that our contractors maintain.
Right, absolutely. So that's kind of it. I think as we look to the future here, it's obviously predicting the pandemic future has become a bit of a waste of time, unfortunately, of trying to play out exactly when the impacts will end. But we hope to see a bit of a normal return to the industry this upcoming summer. Looking at that from your perspective, Scott, is the typical hiring season in our industry, would you say, is that usually looking ahead to the spring leading into summer when air conditioning and refrigeration are most in demand?
Yes, I mean there are contractors that are hiring year round. These are year round jobs, but certainly the most activity starts, I would say, in March as we build up towards our busiest season. For us is always the summer.
Right. Yeah. As you mentioned, I mean, we obviously had Mike Godoy on earlier, who's does a lot of work on the heating side, and so for them, the busy season is probably starting up right about now as the temperatures start to drop. And so there's a lot of different aspects to the industry that, make for the year-round aspects of it. But looking ahead as thinking about in terms of the pandemic, we certainly hope things start to improve in the next couple of months and lead to a normal busy season this next summer.
Yep, very good.
So I just want to go ahead and touch base too with the what are some of the next steps you could take if you are interested. I'm going to go ahead and share our website here, HVACReConnectNY.com. And so for folks who have been on here before, maybe gotten to touch around a few spots and learn a little bit. If you haven't been on here, I say one of the best first steps is right down here in the bottom corner. Take the quiz. That's going to be a bit of an introduction to see how good of a fit you are for our industry. See if your own career goals and ambitions, if the different types of work you enjoy match up with the work in our industry. And then beyond that, there's a few other things you can do. You can go ahead and look at some of the training videos that we've made available, and we're going to look to add to those in the future. A few other resources that are up here as well. And then there's also a section that allows you to apply for jobs. So there's a few jobs posted there now from contractors in the industry. And then as Scott mentioned, come February, March, and April, there might be some more jobs that get posted there as sort of the busy summer season picks up. But with that, I just wanted to thank all of our panelists who are on here today. It's certainly been a great experience getting to share a little bit about our industry with you. As Scott and I've talked about in the past, it's really like what we would call a best kept secret coming to work in this industry. Got to hear from two technicians talk about their take on it and their experience and just how much they value working in this industry. And so hopefully I've shed some light on what it's like to be a part of the HVACR industry. From there, we're going to wrap up. Scott, I don't know if you have any final thoughts before we sign off here. I apologize too if you're on here. We went a little bit over the predicted time here, but Scott, if you have any questions, anything to say?
Simply that go tell friends, right? Spread the word. We have this recorded, so will we be able to share this with others? So if you know anyone else and they're interested, we can share this and otherwise connect them to various people in the industry to see what we can do to get their careers going.
Right. Yes, absolutely. We'll be able to share this out, and I'll just put this back on the screen one last time. There's my contact information here at the bottom. You're more than welcome to reach out at any time. And again, you can find a lot of what you might be interested in right there on the website, HVACReConnectNY.com. And with that, my thanks again to Scott, Mike Mazzone, Mike Godoy, our service technicians, Jordan and John. Appreciate your time joining us today. I know you all have pretty busy days ahead, so thank you for your time, and to everyone who's joined, thanks for sticking around. Take care.
Bye now.